Welcome back, students, and now we are going to discuss about inert pair effect. What is inert pair effect? Basically, inert pair effect is to find the capacity, the tendency to remain inert for a particular element in its outer shell electrons is called as inert pair effect. So I am going to consider an example of aluminium and thallium. We will take aluminium, thallium. Aluminium exists in two forms: aluminium 3 plus oxidation state and aluminium 1 plus oxidation state. Thallium also the same. Thallium also same, 3 plus and 1 plus. So now in this aluminium and thallium process, which is more stable, we have to analyze before going to the inert pair effect, because the stability of an element depends upon the inert pair effect. So now we are going to see what are the elements that we are going to consider in inert pair effect for the stability of the element. So in that nuclear electronic configuration nuclear cell, the major considerations for p block elements are NS and NP shells. So in NS and NP shells, the NS, it will never let people to interact. The bonding with NS electrons will be inert. That is, it has the strong tendency to not break the bond with other elements. So that is why this is how we will find the stability of the electrons. So in this aluminium and thallium, aluminium 3 plus is stable, whereas aluminium aluminium 1 plus isn't stable, because this easily gives up the bonding state because it has 1 electrons in the outer shell. Here 3 plus is so stable because it has the inert pair effect. It will never let anyone bond with them. But in case of thallium, when we goes down the P block element, the TL is more stable because this will never bond, whereas TL3 will easily bond. So these are some of the things properties of the P block elements we should remember. What are the things? Last time, as I taught, electronegativity is important to know about it. Inert pair effect is another important question, students. Inert pair effect is so important. So these are some of the important effects you have to learn P block, because these are P block properties. And then next we are going to see about a few elements in P block element, their properties, their combination, their physical properties, their chemical properties, that we are going to see in this lesson fully. So first we are going to what are the elements we are going to discover in this lesson is that boron, carbon, aluminium, silicon. These are some important elements of P block elements because they are widely used everywhere. So we are going to discuss about that. The 4 elements we are going to see in this lesson is boron, carbon, aluminium and silicon. And first we are going to discuss about boron. Boron basically exists only in borates form. For example, this is one borate. this is named as borax. And another one we can extract boron is from kernite. It exists in borate form. This is one borate form. This is one borate form. This is borate form. So this is called as borax. This is called as kernite. Okay. So boron, as we know, this is a p block element, 13th group in p block element. 13th group in P. So we are going to see some of the physical properties of boron. Boron physical state, that means at 293 Kelvin, boron's heating property. Boron will melt at 293 Kelvin. And aluminium, everything, not only boron, aluminium, gallium, indium, thallium, everything each at 293 Kelvin. And we all know the atomic number for boron. Boron atomic number is 5. Boron atomic number 5. Atomic mass is 10.81. So everything is given in a box in your book, so you have to know about it. This is the, can you see it clearly? This is the tabular column given for every element: boron, aluminium, gallium, indium. So that is what its physical property is all about. Now we are going to discuss about chemical properties. Chemical properties, first we are going to see in chemical properties is metal with boron. What will happen when metal and boron together exist? So we are taking one metal, chromium, because chromium is easy for bonding, everything. So we are taking chromium for example. If I put chromium and boron together, I will get chromium. I will get some combination of chromium and boron. So this easily bonds. This is called alkali metal combination. The direct combination of chromium with boron. This is one chemical property. Next, if you put any trihalides of boron, it will easily reduces. Like if you put a metal to it, it will easily reduces and separates the boron. For example, I am taking this trihalide. What is trihalide? We have to know about that first. Halogen, you all know what is halogen. Chlorine, fluorine, etc. These are the halogen materials. If you combine it with any metal or non-metal, it will become halide form. So here I am taking chlorine, so it will become chloride form. So I am taking boron trichloride here in this condition. So what will happen if you put boron trichloride? Boron trichloride with any metal or something, it will produce the metal combination of metal and boron, plus the chlorine will be removed as acid or some chloride form. So this is about some combination, a reduction of boron with halide. So now I am going to tell you about the formation of halide. Formation of halide. In formation of halide, we will form halide. Halide means some fluorine. The combination of boron with the reverse process of reduction I have taught you before. So I am taking this reaction, this boron trifluoride I am taking. I am putting with sodium hydroxide, sodium hydrate, and now when I heat this combination, at 450 Kelvin, what I get is boron hydrate plus fluorine is removed. This is the formation of halide. Some basic alkali is bonded with fluorine or any of the halide. halogen, it will become halide. So this is called as formation of halide. So this is formation of halide. In this process still there is formation of trihalide. This is single halide we have seen here. Now if we want to create a trihalide, we have to put it 3 times of any halogen. If we add, it will become trihalide on heating. So this is trihalide equation. Now we are going to see formation of boron nitrate. Similar process. If you add boron with nitrogen, you will get boron nitrate. Boron with oxygen, you will get a boron oxide. So these are the properties. What will the reactions? What will happen if you put a different kind of oxides, nitrites, acids, alkalis to boron? What are the reaction? How the reaction? This is basically about the chemical properties of boron. So now in boron, I am going to teach you some of the combination of boron, its preparation, its uses. So let's see that. So first I am going to teach you this element called borax. First I am going to teach you about borax. What is borax? This is the chemical formula of borax. I have told you all before itself. Borax is nothing but the borate form, some borate form of boron. Okay, so how we are going to prepare this? So what I am going to put, actually this borax is nothing but some sodium salt. This is sodium. So some sodium salt of tetraboric acid is called as borax. Okay, so this is borax, and there is one ore called coalmanite. Usually borax is extracted from coalmanite. If you boil this coalmanite, we will get sodium carbonate. So if this sodium carbonate is further on process, we will get borax. So first I am taking the coalmanate. If it is treated with sodium carbonate, so that it will become more reactive to alkali elements. So I am going to add sodium carbonate plus water. I am adding to make it aqueous solution. I am boiling this solution. If I boil this solution, I will get Na2B4O7. That is our borax, and with 3 CaCO3 plus CaOH twice. This is calcium hydroxide, calcium oxide, calcium carbonate. These are all slug. These are all these can be removed, impurities or something. So these are all slag. We can remove it as slag in the process. So we get this material. This is called as borax. We have finally got borax. How we got this borax? By boiling the coalmanate in aqueous solution and alkali solution, we got borax. So one of the biggest properties of borax is that when you treat it with alkali or acid, it will form a soluble boric acid. It will directly form some soluble alkali. So this is the biggest property of borax. It will readily it will readily join with bond with any of the acid or alkali. So this is all about borax. Next compound we are going to discuss is boric acid. Sorry for the mess. Next element we are going to discuss is boric acid. Boric acid is nothing but H3BO3. This is boric acid, or we can say BOH thrice. So it is named as boric acid. Boric acid preparation is so easy. Once if we prepare borax, we can add to acid. I already told you borax has the property of readily react with acid or alkali. So when you treat borax with acid, you can get boric acid. Or if you put coalmanite, culminate with acid, you will get boric acid. So these are all some of the easiest preparation of boric acid. Properties like boric acid, it is crystalline. It is crystalline and it is transparent. It is transparent and also it is colorless. Obviously, if it's transparent, it is colorless. So this is the physical appearance of boric acid. It won't be in liquid process something. This is what happens when boric acid is heated under different temperature. So I am taking H3BO3. I am going to boil it. First I am taking 373 Kelvin. If I take 373 Kelvin, HbO2 is formed. HbO2 is nothing but plus water is HbO2 is boric oxide. It will form into oxide. It will turn into oxide because it is going to oxidation state. So this, if we treat in 413 Kelvin, it will become H2B4O7. If you eat this H2B4O7, what is H2B4O7? Borax. H2B7 further eating in red hot, we will get B2O3. Okay, students, this is the action of it. What will happen when you eat borax or boric acid? Okay. And we already studied the formation of boron trifluoride. But I am going to now draw you the structure of boric acid. How boric acid structure is formed, because it is having H3BO3. H3BO3. So how H3BO3 we are going to bond in bonding state. I am taking boron. It has BO3. So 3 oxygen should be bonded with boron. So I am taking 3 oxygen. Now we have 3 H. So one H is connected to one oxygen, another H is connected to another oxygen, another H is connected to another oxygen. So the structure goes on like this. I can connect to another oxygen and again boron. I can connect now, for example, if I am connecting another oxygen, I can connect this to boron. I can put this with another oxygen. I can put a bond with another hydrogen. So another oxygen, another hydrogen. So H3BO3. This is H3BO3. Okay, this is H3BO3. So this is how a boric acid structure actually exists. Similarly, we can form for diborane. Diborane is boron. This is diborane. Boron twice. It's called diborane. So we can form boron by directly eating from boron hydride. So it will turn into diborane. Similar process, same process, just you have to put a particular element, you have to boil it. These are the basic preparation of any form of boron or any form of element. We can so many reactions is connected with boron. For example, it can be connected, it can be bonded with ammonia and it can give borazole. Like borazole is otherwise called as boron nitride, and here you can clearly see borazole. This is how borazole exists. I am putting boron hydride, that is diborane. Diborane, if I am putting with ammonia, here you can clearly see. If I am putting boron with ammonia, I am clearly getting borazole. This is called as borazole. So you learn about this borazole, it's very, very important. Similarly, we can create boron trifluoride. I already taught you about boron trifluoride or trihalide, or aluminium chloride. AlCl3. We can prepare all this by heating one element with another element. So next we are going to discuss about another element, that is silicon. Silicon is very important. Element we are going to discuss is carbon. We all know carbon is very important in organic chemistry. Because of carbon only organic chemistry exists. The study about carbon, everything is called organic chemistry, but now we all know that it's a part of P block element, 14th group P block element. So we will study about the physical and chemical properties, what is happening with carbon. We will study that. In 14th group, the important thing we have to discuss, we all know the physical state. Physical state is 293 Kelvin. At 293 Kelvin, they boil. All the 14th group elements, they boil at 293 Kelvin. Atomic number 6, 14, 32, 50, 82. What all the elements are these? Atomic number: carbon, silicon, germanium, tin and lead. We all know the atomic number is the double the atomic number. So atomic mass of carbon is 12.1, not approximately double the times, but it will be around double the times. Atomic number is 6. And these are the important things we have to see. Melting point or boiling point, it will be around 4098 Kelvin. So these are the things we have to see. There is one property called tendency for catenation. Catenation. What is catenation? Catenation is formation, some formation. Catenation is formation of atoms. Formation of atoms to form a chain formation, that is called as catenation. So next, there are so many allotropes of carbon. So we are going to say allotrope means various forms of carbon. Various forms of carbon is called allotropes. So what are the allotropes of carbon? Allotropes of carbon are basically graphite. What else? Allotropy of carbon. Fullerenes. Fullerenes are best allotropes. Fullerene formation is it is like a soccer ball. Soccer means football. Fullerene exists. The shape of the fullerene structure will look like a football. I will show you how as it they are given in the book. A diamond is also one of the allotropes of carbon. So these are the allotropes of carbon. So we will see the structure now. So as given here, this is the structure of diamond. If you see the structure of diamond, see how the carbon is placed. The bond is given like a hexagon. This is how it is given in the form. It exists in the form of hexagon. Can you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? This is one. It looks like a benzene ring. So many benzene rings are connected together to form a structure of the diamond. So next we are going to see the structure of fullerenes. So I told you, right, a football. That a football shape is called fullerene. So here also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A carbon structure connected together. So many hexagons connected to form a ball shape. This is called structure of fullerene. Another important allotrope of carbon is carbon nanotubes. Nanotubes, this carbon hexagon rings, they form like a tube. So this is called as nanotube. Now why they are called as nanotube means their size is in the form in the centimeter of nano, that is 10 to the power of minus 9. So they are called as carbon nanotubes. Okay, these are some of the allotropes of carbon. Some of the physical properties, some of the chemical properties. What are the reactions in with carbon? We are going to, there are so many reactions or bondings for carbon, but we are going to see the important products of carbon. First one is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is CO. How we can prepare? We can basically oxidize carbon to produce carbon monoxide. How they will produce this in industry? They will put this carbon in oxygen or nitrogen. That is basically they will eat with air. They will eat with air to produce carbon monoxide plus nitrogen. This is the preparation of carbon monoxide. We can also carbon monoxide can also prepared by warming methanoic acid. Methanoic acid is HCOOH, which can be added with sulfuric acid to produce carbon monoxide, H2O and remaining H2SO4. This is another preparation of carbon monoxide. So these are what are the properties of carbon monoxide? They are colorless, odorless, poisonous. First, they are so poisonous. We all know that carbon monoxide playing in our global warming. So this is how is so dangerous combination. Carbon monoxide, we can also prepare carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide. We can simply put carbon monoxide like oxidation formation so we can get carbon dioxide. So this is oxidation of carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide. So this is that. What are the other thing we can like use to produce carbon monoxide? There are so many methods, but the most important method how we can produce carbon monoxide, or how a carbon monoxide is reacted with hydrogen, that is called as Fischer-Tropsch synthesis. In Fischer-Tropsch synthesis, the carbon monoxide is combined with hydrogen. Carbon monoxide is combined with some form of hydrogen, some 3 or 6 or 4 times of hydrogen to give you carbon hydrogen, carbide, like carbon hydrogen combination we can get, or hydrocarbons. These are commonly called as hydrocarbons. When hydrogen is combined with carbon, they will form organic compounds. So they are basically called as hydrocarbons. So this is carbon monoxide. This is all about carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide can easily be produced. The easiest method for carbon monoxide is putting calcium carbonate. That is your what you will say, some paste available with calcium, CaCO3. If you treat CaCO3 with HCl, you can easily get a calcium chloride. This will precipitate and water will be formed plus carbon dioxide. So this is easiest method of preparation of carbon dioxide. So this is all about carbon dioxide. This is easiest preparation, but there are also other method like carbon dioxide, like other properties of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide can be treated with hydrogen, CO2 plus H2. It can form carbon monoxide and water. Reverse process of carbon dioxide for carbon dioxide preparation, carbon monoxide preparation. So this is all about carbon dioxide. This is all about carbon basic things. Rest we will study in organic chemistry. Now we will go to silicon.